Hello, everyone, and welcome to another What to See with Val. And I'm super excited because we are doing our Friday night spotlight on a streaming movie. And I have a special guest today, one of my podcasting friends, Cam. Hey, Cam.
How you been, Val?
Pretty good. It's been a minute since we've chatted.
Back and forth.
I feel like I have no sense of time, and I'm probably not the only one. Just in the last 2 years, I feel like none of us really know. But
We're
it's
out of time.
yeah, we're out of time. We don't even know. So I think it was it 4 months ago I was on your show? 5 months ago?
At least half a year,
Yeah, it's been a minute. So tell everyone what you have going on and where they can find you.
We have various collaborations coming up, including Love Your Taste in Movies. Even Izzy, we're on for a Captain Power special. We do all kinds of TV and movie takedowns as well as music summaries. We had a wonderful music historian on for an Eagles special, so that was fun.
So cool.
Indeed.
That's awesome. And I will find the link to when I was on your show, and I'll make sure that I put it below in the comment section so you guys can check that out as well, and all of the links to everything that Cam is doing. But today we are talking about Kimi, and I did not even know this was a thing. And Cam's like, "What are we going to talk about?" And I said, "Let me know what you want to talk about." He said, "Val, I know you're going to like this show because I know you're into this genre." And you told me all about Kimi. And Kimi is a show that is on HBO Max, which for me, HBO Max has been like hit and miss. Like sometimes there is a ton of really good content, and sometimes you turn it on and you're like, this is the same old stuff that's been here for months. So what has been your experience with HBO Max since it started?
It was probably the best for me because, if the new content didn't hit right away, there's still, they had so much in their vault. And so it was fun for me seeing how they had remastered some of their classics like Deadwood and Larry Sanders and Oz. And it was like, okay, so picture resolution almost there, but, the sound and, again, the entertainment value is still there. But I think they were just kind of on it a little more just because, Apple and, took a while to just really permeate its audience, and Paramount made the mistake of having to relaunch. Like, are we CBS or Paramount? Oh, well, we should have just been Paramount. So now you've just confused your users. So start working overtime.
Right. I definitely think like when it first started HBO Max, I was like there's all the shows that I love because I have been a subscriber to HBO forever, right? And I had it over on Amazon Prime. And they're
nice
like,
for the...
we'll leave if you have a subscription over on Amazon, we'll leave it, but there's way cooler stuff if you go over to HBO Max. So for a while I was like, I don't believe you, HBO. I'm going to leave this subscription over here and I'm going to get HBO Max. So I was like stupidly paying for both because like we've been burned before by streaming services, right? So, but once I got through that content that I loved, sometimes there's like a long time before there's anything new. But now, for those of you that haven't seen The Batman, it is now streaming on HBO Max, so you can watch The Batman from home. Okay, really quick. Do you have a grade for The Batman?
I haven't seen it yet.
You have? Okay.
It's already on there now, so just give me a few weeks.
Let me know when you've seen it. We'll have you come back here and we'll do a Friday night spotlight for The Batman, because this is the thing about The Batman. And those of you, I've talked about it on several of my shows before, not in depth, but just what I think about it. It's not my Batman movie, but it's a crime movie. And I love that aspect of it because, I mean, Batman lovers, hello, it's the genre that I like, and I think you'll really love the cinematography. You and I are cinematography geeks. We love the coloring, we love the editing, we love all that stuff. And so
I love the special you did on him because you introduced me as like, man, there's all these other female cinematographers who've been around for years. There's been some of these others who to not call the movie as equally theirs as the so-called director or actors, is just blasphemous. It's just
for me it's like I am a huge music person. So when you talk about the score of a movie, it's huge. But the cinematography is equally as impactful because you can watch a movie that the story is great, but if the cinematographer is not on par,
No.
do you really want to watch that movie? No, you don't. And there's also movies that it pulls me through even when the story isn't there for me because the cinematography is so great. Point blank, and I might get some hate mail for this one. But the Bradley Cooper movie that came out that was nominated for everything Nightmare Alley, to me that movie was an hour too long, but it was beautiful to watch. Like there were parts of it that were fantastic. The story was great, the acting was strict, but it was so long. It was so long. But the only thing that kept me there was how beautiful the cinematography was. So let's jump in to Kimi. And I think we should maybe start by watching the trailer. What do you think about that? Should we do that?
How else can we do this?
I mean, I feel like this is the way.
This is
I'm gonna steal that.
All
This,
right, Boba Fett.
this is the way we should be doing that. Oh my gosh, I'm so tired. That means that we're gonna have a great show. All right, here we go. I should probably turn on the sound.
Kimi?
There we go.
I'm here.
What time is it?
It's 7:26 a.m.
Kimi?
I'm here.
Call Dr. Burns.
I got her.
What do you want from me?
Kimi?
I'm here.
Why don't you run from me?
Call Darius.
Hey, hot mess.
Wow.
What are you wondering? What do you know?
Kimi?
I'm here.
Reopen last stream on desktop.
I need more kitchen paper.
Open yesterday's stream. I'm a voice stream interpreter. I may have heard a crime on one of the streams.
The devices pick up lots of things. Just mark this degraded audio and delete it.
I am not capable, and you know it. I think a woman might need help. How do I find out who she is?
You need a device number and the admin code.
Will you make me one?
This is the last favor, hotness.
Close your files, come to my office. We'll listen to the recordings together.
Miss Childs, I have to know what we're dealing with.
We're dealing with what sounds like a premeditated murder.
How do I know that?
Because I just told you. Twice now.
Maybe you've just replaced your real stresses with this.
Can we please call the FBI?
I understand that you have taken some mental health leave in the past.
Why is that in my file?
What do you want from me? Why don't you run?
You said you had her. They did. Now they don't.
Kimi, bedtime lights.
Is this the only copy?
I emailed it to everyone I know this morning. Kimi!
I'm here.
All right.
Zikes. So this is gonna phase you. I never watch trailers for movies. They always give everything away. And that do you feel like that even represented the movie accurately? They made it look like an action movie and it's more of a mystery film. So.
Yeah, it is. I mean, obviously they need to make the trailer a little more punchy, but it definitely would. If I would have seen the trailer, I definitely would have tuned into the movie. This came out in February and I hadn't heard anything about it until you told me about it.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of a sleeper. But I do think it kind of gives you that creepiness that you should feel about the movie. And Zoe Kravitz, speaking of the Batman, Zoe Kravitz, when you told me about this movie and I went and I looked it up, I was like, I'm in. Like, Zoe Kravitz is amazing. Plus, this is a mystery and it's about something that is very relatable to all of us. Most of us have something in our house that we can talk to that is not, that is technology that's going to talk back to us that's listening. I'm a little paranoid about it, so I don't use any of those things. I have before. I had a few of them for a little while. But I don't even ask my phone things. I type in old school, like Google. I will voice text, but I don't like ask my phone to find things for me.
Right, requesting permission to.
Yeah, and I know that it hears me because we've all had that moment where we're talking to someone about something and then we log into Facebook and all the ads pop up on Facebook for whatever you were talking about. And if you think that you're not on the grid, you're wrong. You're on the grid. If you have checked out a library book, if you've paid your taxes, if you have a Facebook, Instagram, and or smartphone, smart device, you're on the grid. So I'm not like trying to not be on the grid, but I don't know. I want to talk to people, I guess. But
I'm with you. I'm totally with you.
I have friends that turn everything on with their voice, like she has in her house in that moment. And it touches on so many things. So we've got, the intelligent smart devices that are in our homes, right? And whether or not it's okay for them to listen up to a certain point. Like, what's that line? We also have that she's like this agoraphobic because of a few things. They do kind of touch on the pandemic. She's got the mask on. Other people around are wearing masks off and on, but then she's also an assault victim. And so she doesn't want to leave her house. But because of the fact that we've had this pandemic, we've been able to work from home, buy groceries from home, buy hair dye from home because she's got this, awesome hair. That's all I could think of. But I mean, what do you think about how accessible this movie is to everyone?
Long story short, they already knew what they wanted to talk about. And I read a Collider article just to prep for this. This was 10 months in development before the pandemic broke out.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So Soderbergh and Zoe just said that basically this road itself is like, Soderbergh was already restudying the movies he had grown up loving, like Conversation, Rear Window, and saw a few of the claustrophobic films Roman Polanski had made. And Kravitz was just honored, because, she'd been a bit part in giant franchises like X-Men and Divergent. She's like, I get to carry a movie. Thank you for the opportunity. Yeah. And Soderbergh said, I only knew about this because there was an article in like one of those tech magazines, and they just said it's both a tech thriller and, again, just a pandemic thriller. And David Cope, who had written Panic Room, had come up with the screenplay, and he and Soderbergh have been pals since '89 when both their careers took off, and they decided to just make a little small few changes in there, like the device at the tech company that scans the eyes, that was added on afterwards. And they just said it makes better sense if they already know her name. But how do they know her name? Oh, let's just have, an eye identification device.
Yeah. And I love how, so we're going to be all over the place in this movie.
Yeah,
so she works, Zoe's character works for a company that basically runs the speaker. So when you talk to whatever device you have, and it tells you it doesn't understand, she is basically that person that puts two and two together, and which I think is really cool because you don't really think about who figures that out, because there are so many different people with so many different slangs that we use every day. So many different languages, are different accents, because I know when I say something into my phone, sometimes it has no idea what I'm saying. And I'm like, I feel like I'm saying it clearly, but my accent is different than other people's accents. And when you hear, like I do use Google Maps and it will say things back to me, and you hear it say a road and they're totally not saying, like, we have a road here called Bangater Highway and it's like Bangater Highway, it's just like, and you just laugh to yourself. So she's basically a person that's sitting behind, that's connecting these things so that the machine so that this intelligence is more intelligent, basically.
It's her only friend.
Yeah, it's really she interacts with that and, this other tech guy and her therapist and her mom, and then a booty call on a daily basis. Like, it's basically 4 people in a machine.
I'm so glad you mentioned
the booty call.
Oh, well, because because I got so tired of how often the women in peril movies, the woman is, defenseless and the stupid guy saves her at the beginning, didn't fall into any of those tropes. Is like, she can look out for herself because she is her only best friend. We, the viewer, know her backstory is like her mom is just too overbearing, too nice, just doesn't seem to get the gist. I don't want to go anywhere. I want you guys to come over to my house and, play a game of, aces and spades or Monopoly, something, watch a movie, but I don't want to go to the mall. I don't want to go here. And I think we all did this during the pandemic. Is like, I'm not going to a music concert, but I will see you at your place with a mask on, maybe, so it's just, we all have that where someone is just not getting the hint and she doesn't feel like she's being heard. Good casting there by Robin Givens as the mother. I did not recognize that as hers. She's another gal. She was an assault victim and she's had to recreate her acting career time and again.
Yeah, there are so many people in this movie that are there for just glimpses. Like you have Erica Christensen, who I didn't recognize was her.
Me neither. I'm like,
and I was like, what? She was in the
reunion.
movie? Oh yeah, she was in the movie. And Rita Wilson as kind of a villain, which was
damn it, Rita.
The other, I follow her on social media and she is just such like a bright light. I mean, she's married to Tom Hanks, but she's a powerhouse of her own. But speaking of her husband, like another movie that kind of fits in on this is The Circle. So The Circle,
I didn't think about that.
So The Circle is kind of almost exactly opposite of this. It's people that are like, we're going to jump all the way in to letting technology know everything about us, run our lives. But there's also in that movie that juxtaposition of some of her family, like, this is too much. Like you and they're like, you have to share so much. You have to share so much. And in this movie, they kind of are like, okay, what's the line to her? Whereas other people you see that are working in offices, they're just like, it's another day. We don't care. And so the fact that you said that they didn't really know that the pandemic was happening when they wrote this, I like even more because I know a lot of people, and I think, just to be, I don't know, we'll put people in a box for a minute because that's what this movie is kind of about. You and I kind of work in a nerdy community, right? And a lot of nerds, I love you, my nerds, have social anxiety, and do not want to go out into big, like conventions and stuff, which is where I meet most of my nerds, is at nerdy conventions, right? But they have social anxiety. My daughter has social anxiety to go to things like big concerts, movie theaters, stuff like that. And so the fact that they were touching on something that a lot of people that know nothing and do not understand social anxiety that we all learned about during the pandemic, but they were putting this in front of us before they even knew that we were going to start understanding it. I still think there are some people that will never understand what social anxiety is. No. And luckily for them, they've never had to experience anxiety like it, that fierce. But some people physically cannot go out of their homes and can't do certain things. And I've had moments where, and I think the pandemic made it a lot easier for those of us who maybe were on the cusp of it to just deep dive full into the fact that we don't need to go anywhere. And I don't know if this is you, I've had to like slowly work into being social again. I would like tell people, yes, I'll totally be there when it was time for us to come out of the house. And then like the day of I'm like, I'm not going. And she touches on that in this movie, right? She tells her mom, so I made a date and I was going to go out. Oh, that's great. But I didn't go.
I'm with you. We do weekly Zoom meetings, but I did have to remind, like you, just like, guys, not the comfort zone. I will say it 5 more times, and that is all you're getting. And like to say, I mean, this just like that applies to anything. Like no means no.
Yeah.
And we've had to remind people about being socially aware of different circumstances, politics, and other tropes. And this, like you say, this builds on the pandemic, but it's a relevant thriller for any kind of thing. It was just, that was an addition, that was an add-on, and it happened naturally, as opposed to, oh great, now we just outdated ourselves. This isn't going to be relevant next year. And Good point on the casting though too. I mean, I've never seen Rita in a bad gal role. I've seen her just play several different authority figures and mothers in movies, and I've never seen Andrew Daly of all comedians in a jerk ass role.
Yeah, I mean, it's just really a fun. I love it. I think that's what I like about streaming movies the most is that they can grab some kind of like I'm going to say obscure cast that you wouldn't normally let carry certain parts on the big screen, but in streaming, like they almost have just do whatever you need to do. And I actually know someone that's in this movie. I'm watching the movie and I'm like, oh, I know that bad guy. So one of the guys that's chasing her, the big tall white dude, is Charlie Halford, who was my acting coach when I was like 20.
How cool was that?
And I just reviewed a feature that he was the main character in 2 weeks ago.
Really?
That was shot here in Utah, but a movie that was based in Texas. I'll put that link on the bottom. So if you guys didn't tune in a couple weeks ago, but so funny because he was lead in this really independent film. And then I see him as he usually gets put in a bad guy role because he's just this huge guy, right? He looks menacing. I love you, Charlie, but he knows. But I'm watching it and I'm like, hey, like I know that guy. So,
second Soderbergh actor who you mentioned, Erica was in Traffic by Soderbergh, and he I think was in Out of Sight. I think it's one of the thugs. So it's just a mild reunion, but at that point I was almost expecting Don Cheadle or Julia Roberts to be the voice of Kimi. So I just I didn't know how deep he was going to go into his wormhole of actors, but I liked how he got some new blood in there. Like I haven't seen some of these movies Jamie Camille has been, but I've seen him in interviews and some of his other indie projects. He's just a very funny man, and I think this is the first main bad guy assassin role I've seen him in.
Well, and I think when I saw him, I was like, wait a second, like, where do I know this guy? Because he has such striking features, but every time he's on screen, he commands it. And so, when I saw him, I was like, I definitely want to see more from him. But so Angela is played by Zoe. So again, her character is this tech person for this company. And I love how they keep saying the name of the speaker, right? And everybody's like, just shut up. Like everybody that works for because I think that's how most of us are like, okay, shut up. Like I didn't tell you to turn on. My phone does have, the thing every once in a while. It'll be like, well, what do you want? I'm like, I wasn't even talking to you.
Right.
It just wants me to talk to it.
It's Skynet.
I mean, I love you, phone, but I don't want to have conversations with you. But so what happens is she's listening to all these things. You guys kind of saw it in the trailer where she hears a phrase and it says it doesn't understand. She types in what it means and it's connected. So she's going down all these feeds and she hears something that doesn't sound great. Ew. Most people, Cam, you maybe agree with me on this, just kind of go past it because it was a lot of music. It was a lot of noise. She really had to zoom in on it. A lot of people wouldn't have even made it their business.
No. And I'm glad you touched on that because it's just an irony. You're most comfortable around your computer than anyone else who is an actual, human specimen. And I mean, I am like you. I used to get intimidated by that's my Amazon shopping cart that's being advertised in the right-hand corner of the screen. But I mean, I do not have Facebook on my phone. I do not like being tracked by them. I use Google Chrome and I don't save my searches. I don't save my password because I just know that's right for being hacked. I've already had a relative who's been hacked 3 times this year. And I'm like,
I get hacked. I just got hacked 3 days ago. I'm leaving. I'm literally, by the time this airs, sorry guys, I record this in advance. You know this already. Sometimes we do it live. We will have to do a live one at one point so people can chat with us. But right now I'm in Calgary, but when I was on a work trip in Philadelphia, I was hacked. And luckily I do have some of those things on my phone because I did get a message saying, did you do all these charges? I immediately said no, then called. So again, it's those good and bad, but Facebook knows everything about me. Chrome knows everything about me. It's out there. It's whatever for me, but everybody has their own level of comfort. And that's exactly what this movie touches upon your own level of comfort, not only with technology, but with other people.
Exactly. And I'm glad you touched on the various technology because, yeah, we have several times where we were like, Siri, activate our sound system. And there are other times where it's like, no, Siri was not meant for you. Why are you listening? You shouldn't even be listening. And so it does have the whole, requests, permissions, all that. It has that in a nutshell. It doesn't introduce money because there's just no need for it. We already know, like, this wouldn't factor in anywhere. She's already, getting paid to work from home. She's good to go. It wouldn't make sense to introduce. And I love how this overall screenplay just avoids so many things that we're so used to seeing tech thrillers do. But so often tech thrillers fall victim to, they introduce stuff that really doesn't serve any purpose anywhere on, but it's just a cheap way to confuse everyone. And you're like, please don't do
Stop
that.
confusing me.
I would rather you be bland and uninteresting than confusing.
The only thing I want to know is how much does she get paid? Her apartment is huge, okay? Like in a city where she's this tech person, how much are you getting paid?
I can vouch. Many IT pals who I know, shout out to you, Ruby, make $40 an hour.
Okay.
So
all right.
I can. I'm sure this is like 6 months worth of savings. She just nuked it. She
really good with her money, because I usually make about 35, and I don't know that would be what I could afford.
I'm so glad you brought up finances. How many times have you swiped your card the wrong way, like at the gas station or what have you, and they've given you a call? Was that you? Yes. Yeah. I live here.
It's when I'm in 7 different places. I'm really testing my credit card place right now, because with my new gig, I'm going to all these different nerdy conventions every week.
That's
and I have not called my bank one time to tell them that I'm doing this.
You lucked out. My Wells Fargo is terrible. Is like, yes, I went to San Francisco one time. This is not my first time. I know you know my history.
But at the same time, I'm happy that they're asking,
right?
Because it's that one time when I'm in Utah and someone in Texas is trying to get gas, and I'm like, I am not in Texas right now. So thank you.
Damn you, Texas.
So she has the dilemma of saying, I listen to this crap all day long, and she does listen to some like interesting things all day long, right?
Music and. I love how they build on just the insensitivity in chat rooms without showing it full place, because those are toxic. Unfortunately, you're just going to have people who just think, hey, I can get away with insulting people.
Because my face isn't, I'm not standing right in front of you, so I can be a dick. Yeah.
And I love how, again, Andrew is just, we think he could be an oppositional figure, and he's like, no, he's just an unhappily married man who works at home and tells his kids to shut up instead of being a parent. So I love how he's sucked into the technology and is like totally believable. There's just a lot of IT guys who, because they are in front of a screen all day, they just unfortunately they lose their humanity.
People. Yeah.
And it's like, crime, nah, it's probably nothing. It's probably crying wolf. Is like, well, and that's just it. When you do have to actually deal with something, then it becomes kind of like how we see in politics. It's like, now I'm doing it just to be the poster child, not to, hey, I did a good thing and I solved the problem. I became a spokesperson. It's like, no. And I just love how many people have been at a job or had to deal with HR or anything. I just loved how, Kimi was just, we can get in her mind that she's been betrayed several times, whether it's her trust or a therapist. And she's like, why put me on the spot? I'm here to report something. Oh, that's right. You're a corporation. You don't want to do anything about this. So
yeah, we're so desensitized, like we've got kids that are 5 and 6 years old, shooting people in video games. So when you hear something like this, and I'm not blaming video games for crime, by the way. I'm not that person.
I know what you mean.
But we're desensitized because we see movies, we see all these things. So when we hear something in real life, it doesn't shock us as much as it would if we didn't. And so for her,
or 20 years ago.
Exactly. Because she's had this trauma, she's thinking like, I do need to do something. And so out of her trauma comes this empathy of needing to help. But she also, because she is so secluded in her home every day, she didn't compute that maybe giving this information to someone, it might get her in trouble, because she's not out there in the real world every day with all these jerks thinking I could possibly get in trouble for this. All she was thinking of is, I need to do the right thing.
Oh, totally. I loved how she even stood her ground with the pharmaceutical guy. And he was like, you're going to do this and that. And, you know, how many times have we gotten just a sudden just medical diagnostic and we're just like, I typically trust you, but this is neither in my budget nor am I going to make time for this. If I die, I die. You know.
Well, and I think also in that instance, those of you, you know, that have had to deal with trying to figure out the right medications, I question everything. I don't want to be just, I'm in here, this is what you usually prescribe to someone, I'm going to just say, okay, and take it because I've done that before. And when I did that, it led me to like attempting suicide. Like that's the drastic problem, that medication that I didn't question, that I just assumed my neurologist knew was going to be good for me, like in a year time, took me to the lowest time in my life.
Oh dear.
Like, so you have to question it. And so she's got this, you know, you're watching the movie, and if you've never had to go through any of the stuff, you're probably thinking she is just like this problematic person. But when you've been betrayed so many times by humans, you do question everything.
Yeah, that's very true. It doesn't go paranoid. It's not, you know, fugitive on the run per se. And like you say, it just understands humanity. It's able to pick enough good, key, quiet moments to get even the most cynical viewer on par with what's going on. And I'm glad you brought up, you know, medication again. I've had many private physicians who I've had to turn to, and I've even had to ask them to override giant hospitals, you know, this command, get them transferred to your private clinic because you actually know what's up, and they just want to prescribe what they prescribe to 900 other people.
Because they have to cycle so many people through. They just don't have time.
My aunt has been taking various steroids because she has a terrible immunity, and in many ways, same deal. She's goofed up her life even more because if you got 9 medications that don't match with the 10 other medications, guess what? You are shooting yourself in the foot too.
Yeah, basically. So you've got to question everything. There's so many little things in this movie that, yes, watch it. I watched it twice in 24 hours because there's so many things you can miss, right? At first glance, it's not like an overwhelmingly amazing movie, right? It's not breaking a lot of ground. I'm just saying, like,
top 10 of the year.
Yeah, it's not breaking a lot of ground in as far as like all the movies I've seen goes. But what it does is what Soderbergh is really great at in storytelling is all of these little pieces that all have something to say. Like you said earlier, he doesn't just put something in a movie just to have it there. Everything has a reason. And if you pay attention to those reasons, there's a million different stories happening at any given time in this movie, because we've got the finances, we've got the technology, we've got the prescription, we've got, you know, people trying to not understand what's going on in our minds. We have corporate America, well, just corporations in general.
Correct.
You know, there's just so many little stories, but it's not confusing. So if you let that kind of wash over you, it's actually more incredible than you think it is. But like just right off the cusp, it doesn't seem like it's this groundbreaking film is what I'm saying, you know?
Well, no, I exactly. Because every time I've seen it, when he was promoting a lot of his previous works, people would be like, haven't they done that before? Haven't they done this before? And it's like, well, that's just it. He grew up kind of a 70s kid, and he never left the 70s. And every one of his movies kind of had that kind of 70s kind of style, whether it's Ocean's 11, Out of Sight, or hell, he did a spy film with Haywire with Gina Carano.
Yeah.
Pre-canceled. And it was, but he always uses those voyeuristic angles. And when he found out, you know, his movie was, you know, going straight to streaming, he wasn't annoyed because he said in that same Collider interview, he still had to pick everyone's brain the same way he's been doing for every project. He's had to do the same kind of, it's kind of like with actors who do the whole, I'll be in it, but only if I don't have to audition kind of factoid.
Right.
He is very fortunate to be in this industry. He never acts, he always has a backup plan instead of, you always hear these other stories about, you know, has-beens and indie people who, you know, were hot for a minute and then didn't do anything for a decade. But more importantly, yes, he's always embraced technology. So like when he had to do the film to digital transition, he wanted to do it because he wanted to see what you could do with an iPhone, what you could do with different kinds of cameras, instead of, you know, make it to the point where it's just style over substance. Like we see people bashing Rodriguez and George Lucas for priding technology over story, and there's pros and cons to that. But Soderbergh was just like, this is the next best thing. So I don't think he even wanted to do it just to be the first one in line. He just like, let's just make great use of it. It's here. It's kind of like when, what would you say when you start the day? Instead of, you used to mark your calendar. Now you do it on your phone. It's
Right.
second nature. Is like podcast interview in 10, 5. Got work phone call in 5, you know, and you have to. You just have to do it mentally and everything. It relieves so much stress. And Zoe also said it best. She's like, I can't say no to this. I am first on this call sheet.
Yeah.
You just done a TV show with Reese Witherspoon and Nicole Kidman, and she's like,
which is a great show, by the way.
Yes. And she was
Big Little Lies.
Right. And she's just like, I learned so much from them and implemented into my consistent already current routine. And now I gotta take it a big step up, you know?
Yeah. Let's talk about Soderbergh a little bit more for a minute. Like, how many of us jumped into Contagion the first couple months of lockdown?
I saw it back in the day when I was pet sitting.
Well, I've seen it before, but as soon as we were in the pandemic, I'm like, let's see how much he predicted. You know what I mean? Like, we're all sitting at home thinking, how bad can this get? Because it was like 2 weeks and then 2 more weeks and then 2 more weeks. I probably watched Contagion at least 3 times during the first 6 months of lockdown. Yeah, I'm one of those people that I'm like, you want to make me miserable? I will help you. I watched like every documentary on social justice in a dark room in my basement because that's where I was working from. Anyway, so I mean, like, he's really good at getting ahead of what is coming. Like, he's kind of his own little Simpsons, you know, like he's
that's a good point, because he does no, that is a good point, because like he does do all these nutty characterizations, but you're not thinking of, hey, it's kind of like he's come up with these Ernie and Bert or Lisa and Bart equivalents. Yeah, he kind of does his own brand of wacky that he sneaks into all his movies.
Actually, some of it happens in real life later. Like, it's just crazy. And Zoe, to me, her character in this, she is a little bit of a cartoon character. Like, to me, I'm like, she's got these bright colors on, but she's this demure, like, laid back, like she's trying to hide in plain sight with a bright orange hoodie on with this bright bluish purple hair. And she does this like little walk, you know, like she doesn't want to. And I'm like, are we watching an anime right now? Like, is she like, I just really like how she is out of, I think what he's trying, at least what I'm seeing, is that she's out of her element, right? And like when she
doesn't want you to look at her, it's like, I can't not look at someone who's got gorgeous blue hair, you know? It's it's not going to happen. And that's so cool too, that they worked in the little walk. She's like, when's the last time she walked normally in person? You don't know if she's doing it because she's insecure or if she's always walked that way. You don't know. And
because she's trying to figure out how to be, because at the end of the movie, you know, she walks across the street kind of a little slowly, and then she hops and she's like, I'm here, you know, kind of like, I've graduated, you know, like,
I'm glad you brought that up. That was freeing to see. Is like, see, so after this terrible incident, she did kind of triumph. It took this another awful event to kind of just get her out of her cage, and that sucks that it had to happen that way. But I mean, and I'm glad they didn't deal with all the stuff we've seen a billion times. Minor spoiler, I'm just glad that they didn't deal with the aftermath of showing the cops arrive. It's like, no, it's not their story, it's her story. There
was a lot of things I was like, okay, this is going to happen next, and then it didn't happen. I was like, all right. So as we go through this, she obviously discovers this really bad audio of something happening to someone, and she's trying to get it to the right people. But she's got to be super kind of sneaky about it. And she has another tech guy that she talks to, and he's just like, he's totally like 2015. Right.
Okay, boomer.
Yeah, like he's just kind of 2015. But it's fine because it totally fits along with, he probably works at home a lot as well. He is who he is, right? And he just kind of says that I just am who I am. This is just who I am. You just need to accept it, you know? And I get that, like with some people, but I like how he incorporated that in, because this movie is a lot about accepting who people are for who they are and not going past what you think they are at first glance. And so her little tech buddy, who she doesn't really know except for the fact that she really just calls him when she needs something, right? When she needs help.
That's true.
Which is exactly what millennials do if you listen to all the news. Again, there's all these little baskets that he's building, but at the same time, they're kind of recognizing who they are, but it's people helping people. He helps her. And then her neighbor, who is across the street, who she doesn't really know, who is kind of a stalker a little bit, notices that they
Definitely
both don't
perverted.
leave the house, right?
Yes.
So he realizes when she leaves the house, something must be wrong. So he helps her, right? So it's all these people. Then she gets kidnapped in a group of people, and they could have just gone on with whatever they were parading about, right? They
Perfect
help
timing
her
with the riot, man.
Right. I mean, it's not really a riot. I didn't call it a riot. They're protesting.
Sorry, that's what I mean. Yeah,
there were no buildings being.
It becomes
being
a riot
into.
when
Yes,
that was freaky too, because that mirrored almost the BLM events where feds were breaking the law and taking people away in vans, and I that's where I almost wanted to punch the screen. I was just like, oof.
But I loved how he put them in that situation.
Well, exactly, because you just feel the tension on screen. You're like, you feel like it's actually happening there in the moment. You're like, I want to deflate the tires, stop the guys from getting away. And I mean, we saw it also with the Amazon protests. Mars Corporation had one where someone got electrocuted, and they said they just pushed the worker to the side and said, keep working. I'm like, no, you got to file a police report and have them remove the dead body from the premises.
That is crazy. I didn't know anything about that story.
Whatever events they based it on is like, yeah, they were very in of the moment, and good on Soderbergh. He said in that same interview that he is very tech savvy and conscious, and he kind of described it as a mix of chills and frills that he invites himself into. He's like, I know when I say anything, they're listening. I know that my camera that I'm using on set is listening. So it's, well, whatever. I loved even too how we don't know the main bad guy, and we never would know the main bad guy. Is it the one guy in the suit who says, fuck, you overcharged me? Is like, I can totally buy that. Some guy with some stock on Wall Street who's like, who do I gotta pay to kill around here? I'm like, yeah, that would probably happen. I love how you mentioned your acting coach is one of the assassins. I love the Jacob Vargas guy who's just constantly just swearing, like to him, this is second nature. He's been killing who knows how many snitches, and
this is what he does every Tuesday. You know, it's just
every
Tuesday for him.
I'm the Bourne Identity. I run around and I make people look like they committed suicide online, and it's like it makes the cover of IndieWire. Is like, ooh, that's grisly. And I wouldn't be surprised if you even see some crazy Facebook guru who hates this movie because it's true, and it's like, that's disturbing.
I mean, it's what Soderbergh does best is he makes you think. He makes you want to have a conversation after the movie. And this definitely, there are so many different conversations that you can have, and that's why we're talking about it right now, because, and I know we're all over the place, but there's so much in this film that, again, it's not like Don't Look Up, where it just shoves it down your throat. Like I I liked the movie. It was entertaining, but for some, I could see why some people don't like it because he made a movie that was in your face, that he wanted to be in your face. And that's what it was. It was a satire based on his real life thoughts, right? This, on the other hand, is things that are true that happen every day, but he puts it in a way that it is just your day happening. And you can believe the things that are happening because we've either heard them in the news or seen them on, some social media site, or there's some Reddit article about them or whatever, or maybe it's happened to you. There are so many things that are real that you can clam onto, but it's not like, here, sit here while I throw my politics down your throat.
Oh, totally. And I mean, I'm glad that you made the Adam McKay contrast. There's plenty of skits, I'm sure, that were great on SNL and ones that didn't quite take off. And I thought Vice was amazing in showing how it's like some people just can't talk politics with anybody. That's pretty much the essence of the story. I love, again, Succession because it's an uncomfortable show. It's very hard to binge, but yet it's...
I binged it. Nobody told me like it was going to be that hard. Everybody was like, you need to watch Succession. You need to watch it. And I'm like, fine, I'll watch it. And I was doing, we'll have to do an episode on that. Because I was doing, I was covering Sundance. And Sundance ended up being at home, right? But I ended up having COVID at the same time. So I'm like, well, this is great because I'm just going to sit in my room and watch all the Sundance movies. And then in between screenings, I'm watching Succession. And I literally watched every season in like a week. I was like, these people are effed up.
Oh, totally. Especially, what's his name? Cam from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. He wants to be like a preacher or politician, and he just can't. We've all had that cousin who's got an ego, and we're like, okay, you're cool, but I don't know anything about you because you don't say anything.
He doesn't know who he is.
You don't know who you are.
Yeah.
And having all the other kids is great because, we've all had other people who we've had to unfriend, on Facebook because it's like, you're a narcissist and you are. That's why I hate you even more because... And yeah, there's plenty of narcissists on the message boards. I love how this was kind of... So basically, this is her Twitch. We've seen how, like you say, is like we use social media to our advance, and then every once in a while we'll see a verbal fist fight break out on Instagram or even Twitch. People are like, and it'll even get political. Hey, so-and-so, they were on my show. Guess what? I unfriended them. It's like, whoa, hey, I don't know if it's like a rapper's, they're starting their commercialized feud, so to speak, or if it's legit, you guys just were never meant to get along and now you're making it personal and public. It's like, this is getting toxic. Let's not do it.
Yeah. It's, again, there's so many things that he touches on in this movie that we can all relate to that could escalate to this point, but he stays super focused with it.
Not too many ideas, like you say, is like, it's not too much to take in at one scoop. And like you say, if you were to rewatch, you can notice all these little small visual cues. You're like, oh, that's her predicting her comfortableness. And I'm so glad that you brought up the neighbor because you do space on it because it becomes so taken aback by, again, the protests and the corporation and her trying to get away. And going to your earlier thoughts on cinematography, how do you dig also kind of, Soderbergh always has a voyeuristic shots, but when he goes outside, I love how he kind of picked a more slanted steady cam. And
because he wants you to feel a little out of place, which is totally just so great. And it goes along with her little walk because it's always just off kilter a little bit, especially when she's on her way to the FBI. Mm-hmm. And there's so many different camera angles very quickly as she's getting taken, which it just happens like so quickly. And you think to yourself, that's how that happens, like.
And second red herring, she's like, that guy must be the FBI. No, he's just a fancy elite guy here for a Tinder date
with
or whatever.
With a weird van. Like, why does he have that van?
Right. And
maybe he's a plumber. Maybe I shouldn't judge him. Maybe he's a plumber. Yeah.
And that was so evil how that second assassin, he comes in, he has like a umbrella or something, which is like a tranquilizer bolt.
Yeah. And
And
again,
the
those
female
camera
contact,
angles.
"Hi, how are you doing?" And she's just there. That's all she does. She's the puppet who is just like, "Hi, come on in. Get him."
Yeah. But like you said, all those camera angles were not at one point is it direct on. It's here, it's here, it's here, because he's trying to make you feel as, thrown as
Involved.
she is in
Yeah.
that moment. You feel just this is chaotic. And it's happening so quickly, and it's the cinematography is so great. But I think one of my favorite parts of the cinematography is when she finally goes to the headquarters and she realizes she needs to get out of there, right?
Oh, yes.
And they're doing the camera work that goes through these cubicles, which we've all been in these stupid, boring room. And he makes it so bland. Like, it's so just like,
We don't see any of them, and only one of them like steps up because they're already on the phone. They're like,
yeah. And it's just like, you go to work every day, you sit in this cubicle, and your life is boring. And that's what it's just this mundane life that we just keep to continue over and over. And we don't question anything else that's going on outside of our cubicle.
unless
And
they need to use the break room, they don't want to be out of the
yeah.
zone.
But the camera going from one side to the other side to down the hall to down the stairs to through, all this stuff. I just love all of that.
Kudos to the Foley. It's like sometimes it picks up. You hear that, AC units, and then another one dead silent. You're like, ooh, that's even creepy.
Yeah, it is.
Then it picks up again, where it's like just as soon at the final door that she exits, it's like, and it almost reminded me of some of the bizarre terminals I used to see when I worked at the airport. It's just like, yeah, this is where I go. This is the last place where I want to die. In the most boring, poorly AC unit ran tech room of a industry. And oh man, it's just freaky because you even expect stuff. Like you say, you expect to see certain things and then you don't see them, and that makes it even spookier.
Yeah. And then they finally get to her apartment, and she uses everything that she has to her advantage. When she starts telling the speaker to turn on the music full blast, to shut off the lights, to do this, they are in her realm now, and she's going to take these down,
I don't think I've seen voice activated music be used as a weapon.
I know, right? Like maybe Abu Ghraib, but I think they had to push a button for that. So, but yeah, no. So all of that happens, and then my favorite scene in the movie, she's on the phone trying to call 911. She opens the door, and there's her date. He's like, "I am so sorry. I tried to get here. He's got flowers," and she's like, "Yeah, hold on." So he's just standing there, and she's like, "I have a stab victim. I have 2 dead bodies." She's like, "Thanks."
Oh man.
And she's just like, she's just right here with it,
Yeah, at first I saw some people complaining about the second act because there's always someone. I'm like, you don't understand. She has all these hiding rooms.
Yeah.
She knows where to hide because she's been prepared for something crazy bad that could happen. She's had all this time to herself. So yes, that's why she knows how to use this nail gun. She's, again, like you said, I'm glad that you brought up the initial point. She had a terrible incident occur to her, and again, nothing can brace us for the awfulness that the world can showcase. And
and I think that a lot of, especially males, take for granted what us females have to think about all the time.
Yes.
Every time I go from, into a car parking lot, I know where my keys are. I know where my car is before I get there. If it's dark, I also try not to have a ponytail or a bun when I'm by myself. Like, these are the things that we have to think about. And so if you've ever so you're just a woman at this point, and I know this happens to men as well. I'm very aware that men also have these bad things happen to them. But once you have then had an actual crime happen to you, you've had something traumatic already happen to you, you then know where all the exits are. You know if you can fit under the bed, in the closet. You know how long it takes you to get to these things. And so, it might seem a little unrealistic to somebody who has thankfully never gone through these things and has never had to think about these things. But she has only had time to think about this happening to her again. And that's why she is so good at getting away. My only issue is when she's doing her little cartoon run. And I'm like, why are you running like that? Like, run faster. You're running like a little cartoon to get away from these men. But
that's all she knows.
That's all she knows. And then she finally, like, something clicked and she booked it. And it really is, we never know what we're going to do in the moment until it's happened to us, right? This movie by far is not perfect. There are definitely some things that
every movie has
can be tweaked, and it's not a perfect movie, right? But all in all, if you look at everything that is trying to be said and is supposed to be a conversation starter in this movie, then I think you can really just really go with it, get with it, and respect like what Soderbergh is trying to say in this movie, and how Zoe takes on this character who represents so many people who are not usually represented on screen in a good way. Usually when we see somebody that's nerdy, dorky, or doesn't know how to interact with people, we see someone like on the Big Bang Theory, right? You've got to make a comment. And I love the Big Bang Theory, right?
I know where you're going.
We are making it comic relief that someone maybe doesn't know how to interact with people on a regular basis, that maybe have anxieties that we don't understand, that,
and we never will, because if there's one thing that many of our cultures do wrong, they love to shit talk instead of actually understand. Yeah. And how many times have you had pals you hang out with after work, and then you tell them, okay, stop taking your venting and anger from work and unleashing it upon me? And I'm glad that you brought up the whole deal with getting a narrow net of what make you a target. I would often take my glasses off, because I knew that was instant geek nerd label.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I've had to unfriend several men who were making fun of the safety pins that were a big thing back in 2016. I'm like, you might find that funny. Guess what? When you get politically divided and you have, again, people continually bullying and mocking you, who do you turn to? And at this rate, I feel like this is Soderbergh's most personal movie. I feel this is him talking. I mean, if the protest wasn't key enough, that is his just way into, there's just stuff we can't talk about. And here, the other twist is Kimi can tell her mother and everyone else about this, even though her mother saw part of the attack happen before the bad guys disabled her computer. She'll still be like, you sure what? It reminded me even of my grandmother, is like, you couldn't talk to her about any JFK conspiracy or anything. She likes to think, surely the world isn't that bad. I'm like, there's some of it you just can't sum up. Some of it is almost as bad as something you'd see on a conspiracy show like Homeland or 24. It is bad. It's obviously exaggerated because it is a movie, but there's some truth in it.
Yeah. There's just so many questions and thoughts, and not everything, is obviously they're dramatizing things, but at the same time you think to yourself, is it really that dramatized? Because in most corporations, the bottom line is more important than the glitches, right?
I'm glad you brought up the glitches. That's a perfect parallel. And I mean, this very computer, it doesn't matter what computer model we're on. I know many people who will instantly do the whole, if their computer were to break down the next day, my life is ruined. It is over. So in a way, this is also, again, I love how, like you say, is like Kimi has something to go back to. So she is a pretty nuanced character, instead of, as soon as the movie ends, there's nothing more to her character. It's like, no, I could see Kimi too. Yeah. And the next movie is her having her first outdoor picnic in 20 years.
Yeah.
And it is cool. And that, like you say, sometimes the perks, the quirks of someone is actually what makes them stand out versus, ooh, that's a turnoff. Nothing against you personally. I just don't want to know you. And it's like the blue hair is what gets our attention. And then the persona resonates in that, she's kind of a hip tech expert who has all her own fun again, just recollections and activities that she does.
And totally self-sufficient. Like she doesn't really
Self-sufficient.
need anybody.
Doesn't
so
need her stupid boyfriend. Doesn't even need the nice guy neighbor who was,
yeah.
almost stabbed to death. Oh,
and
man.
the sound mixing for those scenes was incredible because I was like, all in all, though, I really enjoyed watching this movie. I'm so glad that you recommended it to me. I definitely need another list of recommends, and maybe we can put that.
I'm curious
I'll
to
put
see
that
your
list up
letterbox.
on the website. I'll put a list of Cam recommendations up on whattoseewithval.com. What grade do you give this movie?
Oh man, so I count streaming as direct-to-video. So this is top 10 straight to streaming. So it's a B for me.
So it's a solid B for me as well. Solid B. Again, I do think that it was definitely a great streaming movie. But I honestly think if this played on the big screen, it would look great. Like I honestly think that it would read very well. There are some movies that go straight to streaming that I'm like, this is the perfect avenue for it.
Right.
I can't see it on the big screen, but this is, one of those movies that I feel like could go to the big screen. And like you said, I could see this breaking off into, 2 or 3 movies, a series of movies where actually, because of how smart she is and how much she knows, maybe she's pulled more into this investigative, kind of world, because she's turned some of those sensors off, but then she has high sensors over here. I could kind of see her being, this like tech crime fighter. I don't know.
Kimi's chat room, Kimi's outdoor activities. Yeah.
something. Well, thank you, Cam, so much for being on the show with me and for recommending Kimi. Again, Kimi is streaming right now on HBO Max. I would love to know what you think about the movie. Go ahead and put it in the comments. And then go to my Facebook, my Instagram, or my website at whattoseewithval.com and let me know what movies or streaming shows or whatever you want us to talk about here. And then Cam, tell everybody where they can find you one more time.
Ducked Up Review Show is on Twitter, Instagram, and Apple Podcasts. And once again, we are entertainment for everyone. We got plenty of interviews coming up, including ones with various actors and stunt performers and makeup artists. So keep on the eyes out peeled for those.
Nice. Thank you so much. All right, you guys, I will see you next time on What to See with Val.